Good afternoon, buenas tardes. Welcome to News and Views on this Tuesday, the 3rd of May. You've all had a lovely long weekend. There's been lots going on, and of course now it's time to catch up with all the local news, national and international news. And first of all, in the first part of the programme, we have Raquel Perez with us from Perez Legal Group, and she's going to be talking to us about forming a Spanish company for business purposes. And this is something of interest to a lot of people in the area. In the second part of the programme, we have NADFAS with us, Mary Napfen, and she's talking to us about their latest lectures. And that, of course, she will let us know about in the second part of the programme. First of all, though, it's a big welcome to you, Raquel Perez.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. You're going to be very busy this week with all the normal work you do.
Yes.
You're also doing a very special talk on inheritance tax.
Yes.
At the Theo Mijas on Thursday on the 5th, and everything kicks off at 10 a.m.
Exactly.
Question and answer service, and there's also going to, there's going to be coffee breaks and opportunity for people to find out much more about it. We'll mention it later on in the interview, and just remind people it's only €5, and if they want to make bookings, then of course it's the Foreigners Department, and that's 952 58 90 10 or frd@mijas.es. But now back to business, as we say. Forming a Spanish company for business purposes, and sort of like which cases you would advise a client to form a company, you know, when it would be best. Because lots of people, they might be working for a company, say in the UK or another country, but be working from Spain because they can do things on the internet and on the computer.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if they have rented premises, they need to get some advice how to do it. First of all, I would like to clarify that there are two different types of Spanish companies. You can form a Spanish company just for the mere purpose of buying a Spanish property, which advantages would be like capital gain tax, inheritance tax, that I will talk in a minute. And the other type of companies, like a trade business company, which is the same formation as an SL company, but the purposes of both is different.
All right.
When it used to be the capital gain tax at 35%, I used to advise my own clients to form a Spanish company, especially when they were buying properties which purchase prices were more than €500,000. If people remember, the capital gain tax used to be 35%, in all ages.
Quite high, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very high, it was very scary. And, but fortunately, that was brought down to 18% now. 19% from €6,000 onwards of gain. Now, I would say that because the capital gain tax has brought down dramatically to 18-19%, as I said, depending on the tax band, then I will not advise to get that route anymore in order to buy a property in Spain.
Right.
Now, for business purposes, it's completely a different story. There are two ways about going and setting up your own company, if you like, and trade your own business. You either can form a Spanish company, or you can just set up yourself as self-employed in the social system and in the tax authorities. When you should go one way or the other? When the benefits of the company is higher than €100,000, then it would be advisable to form a Spanish company. The tax return of the company will be 25%, and if they've got employees, that will be reduced down to 20%,
right.
Which is quite
That's quite good, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So that would be that's the case. Of course, there are different bits and pieces to take into account depending if they've got premises settled down within Spanish territory, or they are working through internet.
Yes.
So which is completely a different thing. because the process is different, and also to file the forms that needs to file in the tax authorities are also different.
Okay, and if they're forming a Spanish company, I suppose you have to look at who is part of that company, who should be part of that company.
The structure of a Spanish company is very similar to the structure of a limited company in the UK, but the body structure and the components of the company are completely different. We got the figure of the administrator and we got the figure of the shareholders. We don't call it like directors, we call it, or secretaries, we call it administrator, where it's actually the person who managed accounts, and the shareholders were actually the owners of the company. The administrator can be at the same time a shareholder of the company. The administrator, if is a non-Spanish person, we have to take into account different things. Firstly, if the administrator belongs to the European Union, they will need an NI number, which is a foreign identification number that is necessary for all non-residents. It still can be the administrator. If the administrator is a non-European Union member, then he will need or she will need a work permit, which process gets more complicated. Some administrators, when they are non-resident in Spain, what they do is they do appoint a law firm, a lawyer, which can be actually the law firm or a physical person, an accountant or a lawyer, who can administer the accounts of the company, file the forms that need to be presented in the tax office, and prepare all the accounts, like the bookkeeping, the annual tax return, etc. As I said, it's easier if the administrator is a European Union member.
Yes.
And it will be. There are also other possibilities. I mean, the administrator can be one or more than one person. It not necessarily has to be only one person. It's depending which is the agreement among the shareholders of the company.
And of course, if they're administrators, they also have responsibilities. Yes. Fiscally, or as normal.
Well, as the name indicates, the administrator's duties is to administer the accounts of the company and make sure that the company, where they've got assets and they've got debts, they've got charges, obviously they have to, because they are legally responsible of the company. An SL company also means that your responsibility is limited. So that means if you are a shareholder of a Spanish company, it doesn't mean that if you got debts, they will persecute you against your own assets. If you got a property in your physical name, the Spanish company name, if the Spanish company name has contracted any debt, they would not go against your physical assets.
House. Yes. Yeah,
that's something that needs to clarify, because many inquiries are received about that. So only the administrator is committing a fraud, he will be actually persecuted. But only in that case.
Only in that sort of, right, okay.
Yes.
And I suppose the process for this, you would go through a legal company, wouldn't you, to be able to?
Yeah, the process. I mean, for example, I would compare Spain with other, European Union country. It's quite common practice in other European countries to buy companies off shelves, off the shelf, we call it.
Yes, I've heard
in Spain, it doesn't really exist that figure, and if it does, it's a more complicated process, and even it's more expensive for the beneficiaries of the company, for the administrator and the shareholders. So the best route to go is to form a new company. What is the process? The process is, first of all, the client has to propose, the person who is forming the company has to propose 3 different names. It can be any name, normally associated with the business. And then what we do is, on behalf of the client, we apply to the company's house what we call it a certificate, in which confirms that that name hasn't been registered before.
Yeah.
That certificate is valid for 6 months. Once we got that certificate, we receive the certificate, we need to open a bank account with this original certificate in any Spanish bank that normally the lawyer can propose or the client can choose. And then a bank account, a provisional bank account, needs to be opened with 3,006 euros.
Oh,
because that's the
strange
minimum.
amount, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a strange amount, but actually it's the minimum capital of an SL company.
Oh, okay.
We call other figures like SA companies, which minimum capital is 60,000 euros, but normally we're talking about companies with a sheer amount of access. But a normal company for trade business purposes, an SL company will need to have a deposit of 3,006 euros, which is actually it's not a payment, it's a deposit. So it's refundable. It's necessary just to open the bank account and to incorporate the company. So when the company has deposited, or the administrator or the shareholder has deposited this money with this certificate from the company house in the bank account, in the bank will issue a certificate confirming that money has been deposited. With these two certificates, the one confirming that the name hasn't been registered before, and the other one issued by the bank confirming that this 3,006 has been deposited in the bank account, the administrators and the shareholder, or the administrator and shareholders, will have to go to the notary public to sign and incorporate the title deed of the incorporation of the company. Yeah?
Okay.
So they need to be present before a notary public. The lawyer is the one who prepares that, and then they will sign the deeds in front of the notary. Following process. After that has happened, the notary will issue this title deed, and the title deed needs to be taken to the tax office in order that they issue a provisional registration number for the company, what we call a CIF number.
Yeah, CIF number.
CIF number. So with that provisional number and the title deed of the incorporation of the company needs to be taken to the tax office, which we call it Oficina Liquidadora, which is a special department of the tax office. And then the stamp duty must be paid, which is 0.5% of the share capital of the company, which is around 30 euros.
So well, that's
not really.
That's manageable,
cost.
Isn't it?
It's manageable. So once that is happening, the tax office, the Oficina Liquidadora, what they do is they put a special stamp, confirm that they pay the stamp duty of the incorporation of the company, and then these three documents need to be taken to the company's house in order to this title deed to be registered. And then is when the company becomes legal.
And then they break out the champagne.
Yeah, they should. Actually, they should when the initial activity, they do the initial activity of the company.
Yeah.
But that is actually the process.
The process.
Yeah.
And the way you explain it, it's easy to
step
follow.
by step.
Yeah.
After the company's house is raised to the title deed or the incorporation of the company, which normally take between 20 and 30 days, and actually is when the company becomes legal, legally just to be registered in the tax office in order to start the activity of the company.
Okay. And if somebody's obviously opening up a Spanish company, what sort of benefits can they expect to have to pay?
Well, it depends always what are the income and the expenses of the company, what are the running costs of the company, and when actually they start the activity. One thing I would like to clarify is that if the shareholders and the administrator of the company are renting or buying a property for the activity, in order to just execute the activity of the company, there is a separate process that needs to be taken, which is the opening license for the activity of the business. But that's another story that we maybe will talk another day because it's quite complex. Getting back to what we said, the benefits or the taxes that will be implicated when the company is formed will be obviously depending, as I said, on the income and expenses. There are some reductions and benefits if the company have employees. The tax return will be filed at 25%. It means that the income, sorry, not the income, the benefit of the company will be taxed at 25%, up to the amount of 100,000 euros. After that, it goes up to 28.5 because it's according to a tax band. What do I advise to my clients? Well, first of all, the administrator and the shareholders, they should have wage slips because it's a way to reduce the cost of the company. So actually it's a cost coming out of the company as an expense that is able to balance the income of the company.
Okay, so fees and costs of forming a Spanish company, just generally perhaps thinking of an SL company, what would that incur if somebody was thinking of doing that?
Yeah, well, the cost incurred in forming the Spanish company, talking about legal fees, any legal firm will charge between 1,500 and 1,800 for representing the client, preparing the title deed and doing all the paperwork until the title deed of the incorporation of the company is legally registered in the company's house. Separate to that, once the company has initiated the activity, obviously they need a legal representative or an accountant to run the accounts of the company. The company will have VAT payments, they will have retentions, they will have, if they have employees, they need several different forms to be filed. An accountant for running a company will, the fees will depend very much on how deep or how much the company is producing as work, so how much paperwork the accountant needs to get involved with. But normally it can vary between 250 euros a month up to 350 euros a month, depending on how much work.
Yeah, how much are involved.
In order to incorporate the company, separate to the legal fees I mentioned already, which is between 1,500 1,800, the client will have to pay the notary fees of the incorporation of the company, which goes directly to the notary public office. The stamp duty, which is 1% of the 3,006 euros, and also separate to that, they will have the company's house fees. That will be around 200, 300 euros. That will be the global cost of forming a Spanish company.
Okay, so quite a lot to it.
What's a lot of information to take in, and I haven't even mentioned, the other route of going self-employed without forming a Spanish company.
We'll do that next time, I think.
Yeah, we do it next time. But it's quite complex, and anyone will need a legal representative, Spanish lawyer, to just take care of all these steps and advise the client the best option.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I think we ought to remind people really of the talk that you're giving, the inheritance talk at the Theo Mijas in La Cala de Mijas, 5th of May, 10 a.m.
Yes.
Just sort of like a little, maybe 2 or 3 of the subjects inside the inheritance talk that you'll be dealing with, or the questions that you'll be dealing with.
Well, my intention is to do 1 hour, 1.5 maximum, because it's a quite rich theme, and it can get very complicated if you go very, very, very deep. The idea of the seminar is to give people some guidance and then allow them to have some questions, and as I said, direct them in the right direction. At least if they do have the minimum information, they can more or less, make decisions.
Yeah, they can make choices, can't
exactly.
they? Yeah.
What I will be talking about is the Spanish inheritance procedure in Spain. What is the difference and advantages of inheriting as a resident, as a non-resident, when the deceased person is resident or not, dying without a will, which are the implications, and why non-resident or non-Spaniards residents in Costa del Sol should have a Spanish will. So, and also the tax ban process, how will affect inheritors if they don't plan ahead.
Okay. And of course you have a booklet as well with information for people, don't you?
I wrote this last year. Yeah, it's a Spanish legal property information, which actually talks about inheritance procedure, and wills, and forming a Spanish company. It talks about different topics, which is quite interesting. It has been already distributed 12,000 copies amongst different foreign departments of different town halls in Costa del Sol. And I have to say it has been a success just to help people and to have some information.
Yeah, it's a very handy booklet, and I mean I've obviously seen it as well, and it deals with the subjects very, very easily, step by step.
Exactly. I mean the intention of this is just, you know, not to get, you know, an expert on legalities, and that's why you appoint a lawyer. But at least, you know, it gives you the basic information, at least to, you know, to decide what to do or where to go.
And it's a free publication as well, isn't it?
It's a free publication. And actually, I did an agreement as well on Bookwell España with them, and so it's actually in the English bookshops and Bookwell España. But it's also downloadable from a website, which is perezlegalgroup.com, and all they have just to do is just register themselves with the email address, and they can download it.
Okay, lovely. And of course, as we say, the website comes up on the screen, so anybody's got any queries, want to chat to you, they can get hold of you very easily.
Always.